All right, guys, I'm going to show you guys a little bit on Photoshop and how to create this wrap. All right, so this is something I just made in a couple of minutes, and just in preparation for this tutorial I'm making you. And so I was kind of playing around a little bit, and I'll go through like kind of how I did this. All right, so let me just save this in case I need it for something else. So I'm going to save as and just call it LQ side. All right, sorry about the noise in the background. I'm doing some renovation work, and that's probably what you're hearing. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up a new project here. So let me see if I can pull this up, and then I'm going to go to left side here. Okay, I'm going to open this up. All right, so there we are. Okay, pretty simple. The darker image, you can see that the darker is the actual size, the true size, and then this right here, the lighter gray, is the bleed. Okay, so we want to design it always bigger than we need to, like the background of the graphics, but because that's going to wrap along the top and over. Okay, so that's going to be like the background where your main content needs to stay within the darker area. All right, and if you want to make sure that the text is not going to go off, let's say you had some words along the edge here. Okay, I would bring it in a couple of inches to make sure there's a border around it. All right, so we're going to use this layer, this one here, the light gray, quite a bit. You might want to relabel it and call it this one. All right, because we're gonna this is the bleed. All right, the bleed. All right, so that's the one we're going to use quite a bit. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and let's kind of get started. All right, so I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to kind of hide this top layer. All right, and I want to make a gradient across this. All right, and there's a couple of neat ways you could do this. All right, so the first way you could do is you can go ahead and on your keyboard, see the command, click on a command and click on the actual layer, the logo, this image. All right, and that creates this kind of marching ants around that. It uses that as like a template. We're going to use that a lot. So command, and you got to click here. You can't click over here. That's not going to work. You got to click on the actual lock. And see how it changes? I hold it down. See that little next to the hand? Okay, so you want to. So that's what that does. We're going to go ahead and create a gradient. So next to your paint bucket, you can do gradients if you want. Gradients are always kind of nice. And I went ahead and selected two gradients. So I selected a dark gray. If you wanted to, you could select a red. If I want to put a third color in there, you can. So even another kind of crazy color, you could. I'm just kind of showing you. This is awful. All right, and if I click and draw, if I'm doing a radial or a linear gradient, okay, that's from left to right or up and down. If I click and drag, that's the length of that gradient. And since with the art marching ants are in there, it's creating it inside that area. All right, that's just pretty god awful. So we're gonna go ahead and click on that, and I'm gonna just drag these off. Okay, so drag them out, and instead of red, I might use like a kind of a dark gray. All right. Now you don't have to do what I'm doing. I'm just showing you guys here. So there's a linear gradient. Okay, that's left to right. I can do a circle gradient. It's kind of creating like a circle. See it? I don't know if you could tell. See it there? But I might make it large, so it kind of gets it from maybe this corner and then out. Maybe even better, like here. All right, so from there, okay. And then what I did is I went ahead and created a like a pattern, and I think I showed you this in class, right? And so I have my warriors, my Valley Warriors here. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to bring that inside here. I'm just going to make that for this purpose. I'm going to kind of make that kind of small. Okay, and I want to make this as a pattern all the way throughout. So I'm going to make that kind of small. I'm going to hide everything else. Okay, I'm going to kind of zoom in, and I'm going to make a square around it. And I'm going to go ahead and go edit, define pattern. Right there, define pattern. So that creates a pattern. I'm going to hit OK. So I just created my pattern with a transparent background. You could tell. Okay. Now if I get my paint bucket, if I go to pattern, instead we're going to go to pattern, and if I click on that, oh, I got to make a new layer, and then it's going to look kind of crazy, but there you are. There's your pattern that I just created, right? And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on the command. Remember, command, and you click on it, and then I'm going to go ahead and mask it. So there's your masking, and I could turn everything else back on again. All right. Now what I could do here is I can unlink it, okay, because I want to keep my mask the way it is. And if I click on the layer itself, if I hit free transform, and then I can kind of distort it, so I can kind of make it look like it's kind of going off into space. I kind of just dragging this around a little bit, right? So I can kind of make it look, kind of stretch it, you know, make it look really big here. It's kind of going away, all right? And then kind of place it around, all right? So you can kind of play around with that a little bit. You can also, you know, maybe it's too abrupt, right? So you might want to, you know, bring the opacity down a little bit so it's kind of faded. Remember, it's a background, so, you know, and if you wanted to, you know, maybe it's too much still, maybe you want to blur it a little bit, you can do like a little blur, a little Gaussian blur, and kind of blur it more. All right, so it's kind of subtle, but there, all right? And then what I did on top of that is I brought over the logo, right, and copied it and brought it over on top and then made it, right? And again, you're going to want to clip it, right? So you want it to go ahead and hold on command, click on it again, and then let's see where that lines up a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn this on. I can bring the opacity down. You can see that's where that's going to fall. You can get an idea of like kind of where it is. All right. So the S, you can see the S is going to be kind of chopped off a little bit. All right. So I might kind of move this around a little bit. Oh, look at what I'm doing. I'm actually moving the masking and the layer. All right. See how I did that? So, and again, unclick it. So I'm just changing the logo and keeping the masking where it is. So if this was linked, right? If that was linked, I'm yep. Let me get off of that. If that was linked, if I grab that, you see how it's grabbing the masking and okay, it keeps on. Right? See how it keeps that locked, okay? But if I unlock it and then move just the logo, the mask stays the same. All right, so I might move that kind of like right in there, right? I'm gonna hide that. Now I also put some like cool lightning bolts in there, or something kind of a grunge. So to do that, I went to Photoshop brushes, right? And you click on, I mean, you can click on any of these. And I mean, there's tons and tons of different categories. So these are on brushies.com. So I went to brushes. You know, if you went to top brushes, and you can, you know, there's so much you can choose from. And there's like pages and pages and pages of stuff. All right. You can get like abstract brushes. Okay. Like let's say this brush, that looks kind of cool. All right. So maybe not, but I'll show you. I'm going to download it. All right, you got to wait for this ad. This pops up. There it is. Gotta wait for the zip file. Okay, it's all set. So I'm gonna double click on it. All right. Even though it says download error, it still does it. See where it says brushes? So I can click on it, drag it down, and put it on top of the logo of Photoshop and let go. And actually installs it. So if I go to my brushes now and click on this the arrow, and if you don't see these, so that means your brush stroke might be on, and so you might get something that looks similar to this, right? So just shut the brush, put the brush tip on, brush stroke off, and then the brush name off. So this way, and then you can control your size down here, right? So you can actually see them. And then there's your different things, okay? So I'm going to make a new layer. Always try to make new layers because then you have control over them. So I might bring that over. I might tuck that underneath the warriors. Actually, that kind of looked cool. That was like on top of it. But and then maybe like another one. I might get this like other one here. Again, that's kind of small. Use your brush, get the size bigger. So next to your P's, those brackets, I might kind of go something like that, right? And see how it's falling outside that area? Same thing, you know, you can actually, here's the masking. I can click on that one too, because that's the shape. And then just mask it. And there you have there. All right. And then for the warriors, if you wanted to, you can put a little drop shadow on here. So you see the little drop shadow this makes? A little drop shadow there. Okay. Maybe make it look like it's popping out a little bit. All right. Some of you are going to probably want to use backgrounds that you find on the internet. Let's say if I went ahead and found some backgrounds. Now, here's the thing. If you're doing backgrounds, you got to find a really high resolution. And here's the thing. The internet doesn't really have high resolution backdrops. You know, this is done with a brush, you know, this is done with a brush. I mean, you guys have, you guys can make it and make it way better than you could download it. I mean, if you want to, you could download it off the internet, but it's going to be really poor quality. Look at, and then the size, you see where it says 612 by 409. That's a pretty small image. And if I drag that over, let me just show you here. Let's grab that. And why can't I grab the let me just go over my Finder. Okay, so if I grabbed on my downloads or my desktop, and went to, that was one of the images that I downloaded. I can't get it there for some reason, maybe because I'm having my screen shared. But if I bring this in, let me just show you guys. If I brought that in, okay, that's my image. So I command select all, copy it, right, and then brought that over to my other. I brought it inside here and pasted it. See how small that pasted into? See how tiny that is? And if I look at it in here, like it's pretty good. Like the quality is okay. I'm zoomed in. But if I go ahead and now I stretch it, watch what happens. I'm actually stretching the pixels to make it fit. Right? Look, and if I zoom in, look how pixelated it is. It just gets really broken down. And the only way to really fix that is if you blur it. So if you go to Filter, Blur, and kind of Gaussian blur it. All right. And then you can kind of play around with the effects here. All right. It's the only way you can kind of fix it. There's another way. You can also, like, let's say you duplicated a layer. So the top layer, I'm going to blur it. The bottom layer, I don't. So go to Filter, Blur, and then Gaussian blur the top layer. Let me just show you what it does. I'm going to kind of make it like kind of blurry. And then brought the opacity down. it's going to give it like this like kind of like misty feeling. See, it's kind of like, so the bottom layer is sharp, the top layer is kind of blurry, and if I brought the opacity down, it kind of gives it, so that kind of sometimes hides it too. If you wanted to, you can put these two together in a folder, so you can highlight them. Okay, so I'm using Shift on my keyboard, and if I hit Command G, that groups it. And then if I click on the masking and then grouped the mask, then I could do something like that. That doesn't look half bad, actually. But again, you're looking at a small little resolution. You gotta actually see it up close, and it's, I don't know, it's not really that great, And then the valley thing on top, But it's a background, like maybe you can even get, let's play around. Let's get and fill that in with black. Okay, let's just mask it. All right, and then brought the opacity down. So it's kind of see-through. That, I guess that might work too, right? I'm just kind of hiding it with black on top, so it's not as bright. That's kind of a little trick. There's like, what about those grunge effects that I had? Put those grunge effects on top. So, all right. Well, I hope this is helpful. I would rather you guys make your backgrounds with brushes and stuff than try to grab something off the internet. Because stuff off the internet, when you start bringing them in, it's designed for the internet. It's not really designed to make big, crazy graphics out of. So it's good for like little, PowerPoints and slides and stuff like that, but not really meant for like big prints. You would have to, you're gonna have to build that. All right. So hopefully this helps, guys, and let me know if you have any questions. Take care.